Hey everyone! Today we are diving into something that, let's be honest, we all know a little too well. That feeling of being lazy. But what if I told you that laziness isn't actually a character flaw? Nope. We're going to get into the science of what's really going on in your brain, and more importantly, figure out how to finally get moving.
So, does this sound familiar? You've got a to-do list that's just massive. But instead of tackling it, you find yourself just endlessly scrolling on your phone, telling yourself you'll get to it later. It's that super frustrating loop, right? You know exactly what you're supposed to be doing, but you just can't bring yourself to do it. Trust me, you are definitely not alone.
Okay, and this right here, this is the big idea for today. And honestly, it's a total game changer. It reframes the whole problem. See, laziness isn't about who you are. It's a symptom, a signal that your brain is just overloaded and that your whole reward system is probably a little out of whack. So let's ditch the guilt trip and actually get into the science.
All right, first things first, and this is super important. It is not your fault. Seriously, we're about to completely dismantle this old myth that being lazy means you're somehow a bad or undisciplined person. The real answer? It's actually hardwired right into our biology.
So here's the thing you have to understand about your brain. For literally thousands of years, its number one job wasn't to help you finish spreadsheets. Its job was to keep you alive. And how did it do that? Well, by being super efficient. That means conserving energy, avoiding anything that feels uncomfortable or risky, and always looking for those quick, easy rewards. Think of it like a survival machine, not a productivity engine.
Okay, so if our brain is running on this ancient survival software, how in the world does that programming deal with our crazy modern lives? Well, that conflict, that mismatch, is exactly what we're digging into next. And believe me, this is where the real struggle begins.
And this lays out that conflict perfectly. Look, on one side, you've got your modern goals, right? Things like working out, finishing that big project, learning a new skill. But on the other side, you've got your brain's ancient instincts whispering, hey, save that energy. Ugh, let's avoid discomfort. And ooh, look, an instant reward. This is the exact reason why scrolling on your phone feels a million times easier than starting that boring report.
So, what's the deal with that constant chase for instant rewards? It really all comes down to one powerful little chemical in your brain. Now we're going to talk about the modern dopamine trap and how our entire environment is basically designed to make us feel lazy.
Okay, so let's talk about dopamine. You've probably heard it called the pleasure chemical, but that's not quite right. It's much more accurate to call it the motivation chemical. It's your brain's way of pointing at something and saying, hey, do that again. That was good for us. It's the thing that drives you to seek out rewards.
Here's the problem, though. Our modern world is like a non-stop dopamine slot machine. Every notification, every like on social media, every bite of junk food, it's all pulling the lever and giving your brain a tiny, easy hit of dopamine. And over time, your brain gets used to it. It gets desensitized. Suddenly, it needs bigger and bigger hits just to feel motivated, which makes normal, productive stuff feel unbelievably boring and unrewarding.
So how do you fix this? Well, the idea is to go on a dopamine detox. And what that means is you intentionally cut out all those super high stimulation, low effort things for a while. You're basically giving your brain's reward system a chance to reset. When you do that, the simple things like reading a book or just going for a walk can start to feel rewarding again. It's like recalibrating your system. Okay, resetting your whole dopamine system is awesome, but it takes time. What can you do, like right now, in the moment? Well, now we get to the fun part. Simple, actionable brain hacks you can use to start working with your brain's wiring instead of constantly fighting against it.
So what's with the big number 5? This represents one of the most powerful tools you have to fight that feeling of laziness. It's called the 5-minute rule, and it's so simple. All you have to do is commit to doing a task for just 5 minutes. That's it. To your brain, that sounds like a tiny low-energy commitment, so it's much easier to bypass that giant wall of resistance that usually stops you from starting.
And this right here explains the science behind why that simple 5-minute rule works so well. You see, we've got it all backward. We think we need to feel motivated before we can take action. But the neuroscience shows it's the exact opposite. Taking that first small action, just starting, is what actually triggers the dopamine release. Action creates motivation, not the other way around.
Okay, here's another awesome hack. It's called habit stacking. The idea is to piggyback a new habit you want to build onto a habit you already do without even thinking. For example, instead of just plan my day, you say, after I make my morning coffee, I will plan my day for 2 minutes. The coffee becomes the trigger, and over time, the new habit just becomes part of the routine.
And this one is a real game changer for those vague goals we all have. It's basically an if-then plan. So instead of just saying, I should work out more, you get super specific. You say, if it's 6 p.m. and I've just finished dinner, then I will go for a 20-minute walk. See, it completely removes the guesswork and all the decision-making in the moment, which makes you way more likely to actually do it.
So these brain hacks are fantastic for getting started, for breaking through that initial inertia. But for long-term, real consistency, you need a system. So in this final part, we're going to talk about how to build an environment and a lifestyle that makes taking action the easy default choice.
And this leads us to a really powerful idea. Your environment has way more control over your behavior than your willpower ever will. Willpower is finite. It runs out. So the goal is to stop relying on it and just make productivity the path of least resistance. I mean, if your desk is clean and your phone is literally in another room, you're just much more likely to work. It's about designing your space to support your goals, not sabotage them.
And finally, and I can't stress this enough, do not underestimate the basics. Your brain is smart. It interprets a lack of physical energy as a very good reason to be lazy and conserve resources. I mean, if you're sleep-deprived and running on junk food, you're fighting an impossible uphill battle. Think of sleep, sunlight, good food, and daily movement as the absolute foundation. Without them, none of the other hacks will work for long.
And this, right here, really is the ultimate takeaway. Waiting around for motivation to just strike you like lightning? It's a losing strategy. Motivation is an emotion. It's fickle. It comes and goes. But building reliable systems, a clean workspace, an automatic habit of going for a walk after dinner, that's what carries you through on all those days when you just don't feel like it.
So I'm going to leave you with this to think about. Forget trying to feel motivated 24/7. It's impossible. Instead, just focus on building one small, simple system. So ask yourself, what is one tiny change you can make to your environment or your routine starting today that will make the right choice just a little bit easier?